In this video, we'll be discussing compare and contrast essays. First, we'll review the concepts of comparison and contrast. We'll take a look at the basic parts of a compare-contrast essay. You'll read a compare-contrast essay, and then we'll do a detailed analysis of the compare-contrast essay. What is comparing and contrasting? When we compare, we look at the similarities between two things. When we contrast, we look at the differences between two things. Sometimes we use the word compare when we want to look at both similarities and differences. We compare and contrast almost on a daily basis. For example, we might use comparing and contrasting to make very simple decisions, such as deciding what we want to eat for dinner, or deciding what to watch on TV. We can also use comparing and contrasting in college. For example, we might be asked to compare or contrast chimpanzee babies and human babies. Or we might be asked to contrast the characteristics of two major cities. When we write a compare-contrast essay, we include the same basic parts of any essay. We start with the introduction paragraph, we have at least 2 body paragraphs, and we end with a conclusion paragraph. Let's take a look at a sample essay. Take a look at this sample essay that looks at the differences between downtown LA in 1921 and downtown LA in 2021. You can pause the video here so that you can read the essay completely. Now let's take a closer look at the introduction paragraph. Here we can see that this introduction paragraph has the 3 major parts of the introduction paragraph. We start with a hook as the first few sentences. Then we have some background information or bridge sentences that connect the hook to the thesis statement. We end the introduction paragraph with the thesis statement. Public transportation and architecture are 2 major differences between downtown Los Angeles in 1921 and 2021. Now let's take a very close look at the thesis statement. When we write a thesis statement for a compare-contrast paragraph, we need to include 4 components. We need to include the topics that are being compared, and then we need to also include the points of comparison or the points of contrast. In this thesis statement, we know that this essay is going to be focusing on contrast because right here we have the phrase 2 major differences. So we know from the word difference that we're going to be focusing on contrast. The 2 topics that we are contrasting are downtown Los Angeles in 1921 and downtown Los Angeles in 2021. The 2 points of contrast are public transportation and architecture. Let's take a closer look at the body paragraph topic sentences and how they relate to the thesis statement. For body paragraph number 1, we have the topic sentence, 1 major difference between downtown LA in 1921 and 2021 is public transportation. So you can see that in the topic sentence, we include the 2 topics, downtown LA in 1921 and downtown LA in 2021. And we include the first point of contrast, or the first difference that we mentioned in the thesis statement. In this case, it's public transportation. If we take a look at body paragraph 2's topic sentence, it follows the same pattern. Architectural style is another major difference between downtown LA in 1921 and today. Again, we've included the two topics, downtown LA in 1921 and downtown LA today. And we've included the second point of contrast from the thesis statement. So if we look back at the thesis statement, the second point of contrast was architecture. And so right here we have architectural style. So for your body paragraph topic sentences in a compare-contrast essay, again we want to include the two topics that we're comparing or contrasting, and then we want to also include the point of contrast or the point of comparison. Now let's take a look at the organization of the rest of each body paragraph. Let's take a look at body paragraph number 1. We know that in body paragraph number 1, we're going to be looking at the differences between downtown LA in 1921 and downtown LA in 2021 in terms of public transportation. So after our topic sentence, we follow with a little bit of an explanation of the topic sentence. And then we start with the contrasting. The first part of this paragraph, we're talking about downtown LA in 1921 in terms of the public transportation. So we can see this first part, these sentences here in green, are all about the public transportation in Los Angeles in 1921. And then we come to this transition word, in contrast. In contrast is a word that signals that at this point the writer is going to start discussing the second topic, which in this case is public transportation in downtown LA in 2021. And we can see that the sentences here in blue relate to public transportation in downtown LA in 2021. So we can see that we follow a logical time order. We start with the past, and then we use contrast, and then we discuss public transportation in downtown LA today. So we're following a time order logic. Now let's take a look at the second body paragraph. The second body paragraph is organized in the same way. Don't forget that we're discussing architecture in the second body paragraph. And we start with the topic sentence. And after the topic sentence, the writer immediately started discussing downtown LA's architectural style in 1921. So we can see these sentences that are highlighted in green are all related to the architecture of downtown LA in 1921. Then we come to this word unlike. Unlike the buildings of old downtown LA. So here we used a prepositional phrase to show a transition. This is the signal that now the writer will be discussing the second topic, which is downtown LA architecture today, or 2021. And we can see that these sentences that are highlighted in blue are all related to downtown LA architecture in 2021. Now let's take a closer look at the conclusion paragraph. In the conclusion paragraph, we start with the transition in conclusion, and then we restate the thesis statement. This writer has decided to restate the thesis statement in two separate sentences. But all the 4 components of the thesis statement are included in these 2 sentences. We have downtown Los Angeles in 1921, downtown Los Angeles in modern day. And then we have the points of contrast, public transportation, the architecture. This is followed by a summary of the main points of the body paragraphs in this essay. And the last sentence is a final thought, something interesting for your reader to think about. In this case, the writer has related the final thought to the question at the beginning of the introduction paragraph. So that's one way that we can use the final thought. So we can see that the organization of a compare-contrast essay is very important. So let's take a quick look at an outline for the organization of a compare-contrast essay. This is a general outline for a compare-contrast essay. We start with the introduction, just like any other essay, and then we have our body paragraphs. The organization in the body paragraphs is particularly important. Remember that we start with the topic sentence. The topic sentence should include both topics and the first point of contrast or the first point of comparison. Then the first part of the paragraph, after the topic sentence, we discuss the first topic. After that, we discuss the second topic, all in one paragraph. In our sample essay, remember that our first topic was downtown LA in 1921 in terms of public transportation. And then the second part of this essay, topic 2, was public transportation in modern day downtown LA. We follow the same pattern of organization for body paragraph number 2 as well. So that's just a little bit about compare and contrast essay writing.